Shabbat Shalom. It's Friday again, and this time Parashat Vayera. In our parasha, Avraham Avinu is in many ways put to the test in multiple ways. We see at the end of the parasha there's the whole story of the Akedah, where he is asked to sacrifice his son, and throughout the parasha we find multiple different instances, in addition to last week's parasha, where we really get to meet Avraham Avinu, our forefather Avraham, on a very interesting emotional, educational, and most importantly, religious level. Avraham Avinu is the father of monotheism, as we know it today. All three monotheistic religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all credit Avraham Avinu as being the forefather of this idea. And there's a beautiful pasuk in our parasha at the very beginning that I think very much translates to that, especially when viewed through the eyes of the Midrash. When Avram Avinu, in the beginning, or should I say Avram Avinu, he has not yet got the title Avraham. When Avram Avinu is sitting outside his tent, Kechom Hayom, at the very beginning of the Parsha, he is waiting for guests. And by the way, this is a very beautiful insight. People often think monotheism is a very intolerant religion. Idea of there's only one God, and if you're not with me, you're against me. And indeed, we see the intolerance, unfortunately, sometimes coming out, where very religious people, very fanatic people can do terrible, terrible things in the name of religion, especially if their religion itself is a corrupt version of monotheism, such as Christianity or Islam. But here we find a beautiful Jewish version of monotheism, which says, yes, indeed, there is only one God, but that doesn't mean I can't be nice, and that doesn't mean I can't be friendly, and that doesn't mean that I can't welcome in the guests. And Judaism very much, in many ways, is not a missionary religion. It does not try and convert people to its religion. It recognizes that there might be people outside who make mistakes, who have the wrong ideas, but we're very much willing to live within a world of different ideas of diversity and so on and so forth. And that's something which Judaism has survived throughout the many different ages that Judaism has been interacting with non-Jewish worlds, non-Jewish cultures, both pagan and monotheistic, both with the idol worshippers and with Christianity and with Islam. There is a built-in tolerance, and I would even say gmilut chasadim, hachnasat orchim, welcome in guests, which Avraham Avinu here seems to very much represent. And then there's a very interesting pasuk that I want to look closely at. When he tries to invite the people in, he says, Vayomar, Adonai imna matzati chen be'enecha al na ta'avor alavdecha. Please don't keep going. Please come into my tent. Come in. I'll give you some food. Yukachna ma'at mayim v'rachatzu raglechem. Maybe you can take some water and wash off your feet. Ve'yisha'anu tachat ha'etz. You can, have a rest in the shade under the tree. Ve'ekcha pat lechem v'sa'adu libechem achar ta'avor. And then you can, have a bite to eat and move on. Indeed, Chazal note that Avraham Avinu, I'll give you a piece of bread, pat lechem. In the end, he ends up serving a whole feast. That's part of the beauty of Hachnasat Orchim, emor me'at ve'aseh arbeh. Do more than say. But when it comes to this pasuk, I want to take a closer look. Yukachna me'at mayim ve'rachatzu raglechem. Please take some water and cleanse your feet. Now, this is very much understood. In the ancient world, people were walking around barefoot very often, and even if they were wearing shoes or sandals, it was very dusty from the road. And if you want to relax, you have to, take off your shoes, kick back, and wash yourselves. Now, fascinatingly, we find two other cases where people invite guests in, and there, both with Lavan and with Lot, we find that they say, "Velinu v'rachatzu raglechem." You can sleep. Oh, and of course, you can wash your feet. Here, Avraham Avinu puts washing your feet at the very first stage of the coming into his house. And I want to look at the Rashi. Rashi here quotes a famous midrash that says, "V'rachatzu raglechem kesavur shehem araviyim." He thought that they were either Arabs or, again, there were no Arabs at the time, but some sort of travelers, Bedouin travelers, shemishtachavim le'avak raglehem, that would, in many ways, see the dust of their feet as holy and see it some sort of I wouldn't want to wash it off. It is something special and in many ways religious. והקפיד שלא להכניס עבודת כוכבים לביתו. And he was very sure, very insistent on not allowing עבודת כוכבים, not allowing paganism and idol worship into his own home. Unlike אבל לוט שלא הקפיד, unlike Lot, his son, his cousin, his nephew, who did not care about these things. הקדים לינה לרחצה שנאמר ולינו רחצו רגליכם. Lot, as we saw, first said, come in, relax, and then I'll wash your feet. And with Abraham, washing the feet was the very first stage. Now, without going into the different history of what kind of worship the different people worship, like the dust on their feet and so on and so forth, I think there's a very important message here, which comes to the very core of Jewish beliefs. Avraham Avinu is very willing to invite idol worshippers into his house, but he does not allow idol worship into his house. The idols must stay outside. We can discuss, we can talk philosophy, we can talk theology, but the house, our educational bubble in many ways, where we raise our children, our home environment, that must remain sanitized from all of these different things. And I think this is a very big question when it comes to today's world, where we have a lot of traveling ideas, picking up dust throughout the world, especially today when unfortunately that dust very often is digital. And we find all of these ideas traipsing through our living rooms, through the phones that we're holding in our hands at the moment, through the computers, through all of the different TVs and different sources of media and information. The question is, how do we find that filter? How do we wash ourselves? And by the same way, washing is by definition, in many ways, filtering. We want to keep the fruit and we want to wash off the dirt. We want to keep our feet, hopefully, and wash off the dust. How do we sieve and sift through all of the messaging that's coming in and keep the good ideas and wash off, and wash off all of the dust and the dirt and the mud that we might feel will contaminate our home environment? Now, Avraham Avinu puts this first. Even though he's very much willing to converse with these people and to interact with these people, there have to be filters before they can come in. Lot is willing to let everyone in. And then when they're in, he can start thinking about filters. Unfortunately for Lot, that is too late. We see that Lot's own education is not the best, and his daughters ending up not being the paragons of virtue. Yet Avraham Avinu, because Hashem chose him, he says, because I know that he will teach, he will be the educator of the future generations. He will teach them to walk in the path of righteousness and of justice. Avraham Avinu indeed is the father of monotheism. He is the ultimate teacher. He is our father, in many ways, our patriarch, our educator. And this is one of the important messages that I think comes forth. How does this translate into our modern day? That's a good question. I think this is not easily explained in one sentence. This is much more of a conversation. But I think we need to think for ourselves. What kind of personal filters? I'm not even talking about apps and programs and stuff like that. Personal filters. When we're about to click on a video or we're about to enter into a thread on some sort of social media site, is this something that is positive? Is this something that I really need to get my head into? Is this something that will distract me from my goals and my purposes? Is this something that will actually cause me harm emotionally or mentally? Is this a waste of time? Is this gonna just waste up my brain space? Is this something that will actually confuse me? Something that will actually cause me harm? Obviously, we do contend with confusing ideas, but how is the best way to do this? Is it through this medium, on this platform? Am I in the right headspace? Do I have the right backing, the right preparation to deal with these things? These are all things that I highly recommend that we think about, whether they are content which is nasty, especially we know after the 7th of October, a lot of videos flying around. Is this something I really necessarily want to allow into my inner mind? Whether it's content which is maybe smutty or of moral content that this is not something that I need to be looking at. Whether this is something of angry, things that will get me angry, things that will really upset me, things that will not allow me to focus on what I'm doing, will take me out of my mind space and will cause me frustration and annoyance. All of these things, I think, connect to the pasuk that we have in our parsha. First you can wash your feet, then we can sit and talk. And Bezrat Hashem, I give us a bracha that we all internalize this across all different parts of life. And I wish you all a Shavua Tov, Shabbat Shalom. May this week, Bezrat Hashem, be one of hopefully good news, of success, of growth, personally and communally. And I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.